Hello, everyone. It's me again, thanking you on behalf of the Third Pillar family for joining us. For the benefit of those who do not know us yet, we are an IT and business consulting company specializing in three areas. One, customer experience platform. Two, data governance. Three, e-procurement. Welcome to our online forum, Survive, Adapt, and Evolve, the e-commerce edition. It's a known fact that Filipinos by nature love to shop and eat. That's why we just miss going out during this lockdown. Consumers have been challenged to shop for essential items, but think too of how the businesses, such as the retailers and restaurateurs, are being challenged to reach out to their customers and also to continue operating. The government modified the ECQ to allow several establishments to open last Monday. However, in our opinion, it will take a while before things go back to normal. That's why for businesses to survive, they must find new ways to reach out to their customers. And one such way is e-commerce. What is e-commerce anyway? What is e-commerce to an average person? The short definition is commercial transactions conducted electronically, mostly, if not all, the internet. It may sound simple, right? But there are so many factors in building a successful e commerce platform. That's why today we have brought in reputable companies in the industry to show how they have transformed their businesses to suit the new norm and how they continue to innovate in service of their customers and the community. Third Pillar is very happy to introduce our distinguished guest speakers. And let me start with Mr. James Bradford, currently heads one of the fastest growing loyalty tech platforms in the Philippines. Having been the managing director of My World Philippines for the past year and a half, he provides high-end professional marketing and analytical services through Cashback World Partner Program to micro, small, and medium, and even large enterprises. Cashback World provides companies with a unique business marketing solution in the form of an uncomplicated, innovative customer loyalty program. Our second guest speaker is Mr. Petros Carbonell, Business Development Head of Lozada. Mr. Carbonell has over a decade of experience in a variety of industries, including restaurants, supercenters, ESCO, and Nestle, and has been the head of business development at Lozada Philippines for over a year. With over 25 monthly users, Lazada is the largest e-commerce platform in the Philippines. As a pioneer in the e-commerce ecosystem in Southeast Asia, Lazada has had over 155,000 sellers, 3,000 brands, having served over 560 million consumers in the region through its marketplace platform, supported by a wide range of tailored marketings, data, and service solutions. To complete the roster of our distinguished panelists is Mr. Mark De Hoya. Mr. De Hoya is a regionally recognized marketing professional and public speaker. He also spent a significant part of his career as a strategist and business leader for McCann World Group Philippines, the country's largest marketing communications agency. Today, he is the concurrent marketing director for Max Restaurant and head of corporate communications for Max Group Inc. Max Group Inc. started with its flagship brand Max Restaurant, a humble roadside cafe in the home of its founders. Among the famous brands that Max carries are the Yummy Pancake House, the delicious Krispy Kreme, Yellow Cab, and Jamba Juice. Panelists, welcome to our online forum. Our moderator for today's session is the president of Winergy Power Filipinas. He is also the host of ANC On the Money and Ontrap Lab. Please welcome Mr. Quintin Pastrana.
Good afternoon. Jenny, thank you for the kind introduction. And we've got around 50 minutes to really tease out this new world of e-commerce. So let's begin. Gentlemen, good afternoon. And to our
All
viewers,
right, Quintin, take it from here. I will see you later.
thank you very much. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the not just an interesting panel, but the wild, brave new world of e-commerce. Uh, Listen, I mean, this is a VUCA world, and with the ebbing and rising tides, you are the battleships in the bay. So it'll be great to get your opinions in terms of how this has hastened your own digitization and change your business models so that other people can learn from this. And then later on, we will talk also about how they can interface with your platforms, especially for the potential enterprises that want to digitize and really move into this space. So, gentlemen, let's begin. You all represent different segments and different stages of the e-commerce ecosystem, and so I want to start first of all, I guess, with the most immediate, wherein we're looking at someone who represents a household name already, so that's going to be easier for our audience to understand, and that is Lazada. Let me talk to Petrus right now. Petrus, I'd like to get your inputs in terms of how, being one of the first movers in the e-commerce space, you've still had to make adjustments in this digitization imperative. How has this changed your business model?
So hi, Quintin. Thank you so much. Lazada, we're experiencing e-commerce is very exciting right now. We're experiencing a lot of growth in the past few weeks, especially during the first parts of ECQ. There were some disruptions there. Only essentials, where we were focusing on essentials at that time. A lot of innovations towards Lazada for Good, um, trying to become relevant and trying to help the front lines, and then eventually trying to get our our products into the hands of the consumers, and then also trying to help our sellers get back on track. So a lot of adjustments here and there, small adjustments here, and then a lot of innovations as well. Overall, Lazada right now trying to become still more evolving and trying to become better for our consumers and also our sellers.
Okay. Well, thanks, Patrick. We'll get back to you in terms of your platform itself and the individual adjustments. But let's move on to someone who's, in the other part of the continuum, because the quick service restaurant infrastructure with a portfolio of brands, and at the end of the day, they're already in the process of migrating. I speak to your CEO, Robert Trotta, the other time and talk about where this is going. But given this hastening of digitization, Mark, wanted to check with you in terms of where you are in terms of that evolution, given the imperative and how all your brands are coming along.
Frankly, this has been a very exciting and very exhilarating for all of us here in the food industry. Some people may not be aware that Maxis Group is the largest casual dining chain in the Philippines, and we have all over 700 stores all over the globe. And we'll be honest, when you have that kind of scale, you start to think that the business is all about managing restaurants. So I suppose this discussion to have to had to rethink what was the core of what we do. Was it restaurants or was it food? And more than just defining the service channels and the fulfillment terms, it really challenged us to be able to reevaluate who is the real competitive set. Whereas before we would be up against the national restaurant chains who have their own very competent digital infrastructure. But now all of us, we're in a world where we sort of have to navigate against the community sellers, community restaurants, boutiques, mom and pops, so on and so forth. So exciting time, and it's really been a great opportunity for us to reinvent who we are as a group.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. It'll be also critical to have your experience resonate with others who are paying for their overheads as well, certainly in a smaller scale, but at the same time learning to pivot from what you're saying is repositioning from the restaurant industry to a food business, regardless of a delivery platform. So we'll take that into account later on as the questioning increases. James, we spoke the other day, and what's interesting about your business model is you are really there to enable small and medium scale enterprises. And just for the context of our audience, many of them know about this, but it bears repeating that over 99% of Philippine registered enterprises are micro and small and medium scale enterprises. And while they still represent the majority and a good source of employment, they're only a third of GDP. And a lot of that has to do with, let's say, beyond financing, just adaptability to the digital world in terms of reaching out to a larger market. How does your firm help with empowering that? And where are you in terms of helping them adjust towards this very brave new world?
Thank you, Quintin. Well, we're as I'm just going to resonate what everybody else, the other distinguished guests are saying, and this is a really exciting time for us. I mean, we very much have been in the digital world for quite some time. It's part of our DNA as a company. So I think what we're seeing now is obviously a lot of the projects that we had lined up pre-COVID-19 have now been fast tracked. We've just introduced a new delivery facility to our platform, and so we're really positioning ourselves quite nicely to support MSMEs who are looking to make that transition. And now, obviously, again with things like Facebook that have opened up marketplaces, these are all areas that we're very interested in because we've had that legacy lifespan in those areas, and those are areas that we're really focusing on at the moment. So again, very exciting. And in a great position to be able to support MSMEs make that pivot move in their business model.
Thanks, James. There was going to be a lot of questions with regard to operationalizing that, as in helping SMEs take the first steps into that digital world with that suite of tools that you're offering. Let's go back to Petrus. Petrus, it's being a household name. People are already used to anybody from a digital native who's getting onto the platform knows Lazada, knows the convenience, knows the customer fulfillment. The question is on the back end, because not everything is purely digital. You're still working with individual suppliers and vendors. How have you been able to adjust, manage your expectations, and help them, handhold them through their supply chain issues?
Yeah, so for Lazada, we've had a lot of adjustments. No? So on the logistics end, we had to coordinate with the different barangays and also the local government units. We've also had to take a look again at our tech. What are we doing? What's available? What are the categories that we're able to sell? And then overall, at the end of the day, we've tried to enable more sellers, help them get back online. So a lot of our sellers we're seeing in the past weeks, in the recent weeks, they're more and more of the numbers that were already active before are going online. Another thing that we're trying to do is actually get more sellers who are offline to go online. In terms of supply chain, some things that we're seeing that a lot of the local businesses, especially MSMEs, are starting to get this hang of getting to go online and selling. So most of people will start first as a buyer of e-commerce, and later on they're going to be transitioning into becoming a seller because their businesses will be affected. And then what we're trying to do is to help them get back on track. And then we've also, in the past few weeks, we've tried to make more campaigns and give them more visibility so that they'll be able to sell more and reach more customers. So nationwide scale, and in terms of 24/7 availability, it never stops, and simultaneous transactions all together at the same time.
Okay, just a follow-up question to that, because as a Lazada user myself, and I tell this to your CEO quite a bit, if I'm looking for a particular product, the first thing without the filter that comes up is a lot of these products are actually sourced from countries, namely China, for example, and all that. Has there been a backlog in terms of orders? And if so, especially since these are international orders, given ECQ and lockdown in their side, how have you overcome that and managed expectations of your customers?
Well, right now, if you look at the app, some of our lead times have been adjusted so to manage expectations. And every day we're actually trying to evolve and make it better. And recently, the lead times have been better. We've cleared a lot of the backlogs that are there. And in terms of our sellers, in terms of their inventories, we're still seeing a lot of businesses having a lot of their inventories in their different warehouses. And then what we're trying to do right now is to get them back online or get them back live. So we're encouraging them to get back on live, and then we have this program called Bounce Back. So we're trying to get everybody else to go online, and then we're trying to offer different services so that it'll be easier for them to go back online. We have some third parties who are able to give them loans. We're also actually offering a lot of different services so that it'll be easier for them and also for the new sellers. No, if they're interested, we have a lot of resources poured out for new sellers. So I think that's it.
Yeah, so a parallel route for the CRM, which is you guys are known for, is also the VRM, the vendor relationship management, to make sure that they're also growing with you and lowering their pain points as this situation evolves. Now, Mark, it'll be interesting. We mentioned earlier about the asset heavy, structure, which served really well for a consuming economy in the Philippines, where over 70% of GDP is really personal consumption. But in a lockdown, in a restrictive social distancing environment, how have you had to take this setback and reposition it wherein you're still serving your customers? Give me an example, for example, either the Maxis Group or Jamba Juice or Pancake House. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, Quentin, that you've been using the word service over and over again. No? Because when we assess really what are we doing when we talk about food service, we acknowledge that that's not just a commercial responsibility. There is a human aspect to the service that we consider. And it's interesting because one of the first things that happened during the initial quarantine was a lot of the government institutions, PNP, etc., the frontliners literally manning the boundaries happened to be very near several of our own branches. So that became the obvious inspiration to be able to serve and nourish even without any commercial interest. As of our last count, Maxis Group, just in that first week, we served almost, I think, 15,000 meals across the frontliners. And we said that this is going to be a great opportunity because food is meant to nourish. And whether or not there would be a commercial interest, we said there's an opportunity for us to help. So one of the first things that we did when we paused operations for a couple of weeks, we built, this is a first actually for Maxis Group, our very first digital-only pledging portal where we actually allowed the fans of our different brands, Maxis, Yellow Cab,
Okay, we're having a bit of technical difficulty. Mark, we'll get back to you in a bit. I mean, we seem to be having a bit of technical difficulties on your end, gentlemen. James, are you all right still in terms of reception? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Quentin.
Great, thanks. Well, listen, I mean, onto your business model, the idea there is being able to have a suite of tools, and solutions for SMEs who are either already fully adopted or getting there, but at the same time, the first time, a digital, first time digital company aspirational, ambition, right? So when you think about the first time SME coming to your end, how have you adjusted your business model wherein they're more incentivized, not just out of fear, but out of the advantages that your platform and the tools can offer?
I think, I think what's happened is that you've seen this massive learning curve over the last couple of months. I mean, obviously we saw that sort of consumer shock right at the beginning of COVID-19 where people just, obviously were focusing on the basic and the bare necessities. In that time, I think a lot of owners didn't really think about what was going to happen next and where the next step was, or what the next step was, sorry. What I think is happening now is what we're seeing is that people are reaching out and there's a lot of inquiries, there's a lot of questions around how the platform works and what we're trying to create. And obviously one of our missions in the Philippines, around the world, with all our other countries in my world, is that we create these shopping ecosystems. So as a merchant to onboard into this ecosystem, really what you're doing is you're enabling yourself or empowering yourself with tools that aren't super technical to grasp. We've had to obviously move a lot of our trainings, a lot of our knowledge online into the various channels that we have available to us. But from an MSME owner's perspective, it's really an easy transition, because what we're not presenting something that is an informal, challenge to grasp, bring on board, and get going in their business, and then at the same time enable the consumer, the members that have the card, that the Cashback World card, enable them to have a much better transacting experience with these MSMEs.
Yeah. So just to follow up, James, when you talk about hand holding your SMEs, I mean, there was a good part of face-to-face interface with your clients, your first-time clients, or your ongoing engagements, and that certainly gave some comfort to a lot of them. But now that you're doing it, by default digitally, how have you equipped your team to make sure that training, hand holding, is also just as reassuring?
Sure, it's again, that learning curve played a huge part of this. it was sort of that the mad rush in the beginning of this thing to get all this information online, to have the team sort of adjust the way that they managed not only the way that they were presenting information, but also the way they were managing the relationship from day one. These are all things that we've had to sort of really go back to the drawing board and do a lot of, self-assessment, I guess. But I mean, now what we're seeing is that again, this situation has created massive opportunities for people. People are really grasping this very quickly. I was really surprised to see how quickly my team adjusted to a remote setting. And to be honest, at this particular point in time, there's been absolutely no negative in our connection, not only with new merchants, but also with new consumers.
I suppose after talking to a lot of economists, the common denominator that helps yourself and the two other businesses that were on this call is that the Philippine demographics are quite advantageous to being digital natives, right? Over about 50% of the country is under 22 years old. Last week checked the statistics. So that means migration shouldn't be a problem. And then you put this imperative of COVID where social distancing warrants you to get there. That should put, some, good momentum and inertia for you. Now, let's go back to Mark, because Mark, we kind of got cut off there in terms of talking about how you're repositioning your service, so to speak, in terms of getting those brands to your consumers while lowering overheads and helping frontliners, as you mentioned.
I apologize for that. No? So the first thing we said, given that Maxis Group has what I would say one of the better end-to-end infrastructures in terms of building the inventories, commissarizing it, and actually deploying, we built that digital-first pledging portal where we actually allowed our fans across our different brands to be able to pledge and donate to this date over 53,000 meals for hospital frontliners. So precisely because we had the front end in place already, it was just a 48-hour build to be able to get this program off the ground. And as that expanded, we said there are many things that a food brand can service given the existing infrastructure. And we said vertical expansion and vertical integration would be such interesting things for us to space and scope for us. We understood that part of the challenge, people will always look for food, but in times of crisis, perhaps the sources of food would have changed. So no longer were our competitors just chained restaurants. It would be the supermarkets as well. So we expanded our own digital front ends to be able to serve ready-to-cook frozen goods, frozen proteins, sauces, condiments, everything that you need to stock up in your home. So it was really the adaptiveness of our front end and the integration of the digital back end that allowed us to really expand our scope. Again, it's not about serving restaurants. It's about being a food company.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I mean, just a follow-up question, because we have a lot of restaurateurs and entrepreneurs of the food business. That is one of the most low barrier to entry in terms of getting into an MSME. Let me ask you about how you're doing commissaries. If commissary is something that you share across different industries, whether you're a fast food, a quick service restaurant, even fine dining. I mean, how has your commissary been digitized and equipped to change, to adapt to this, new product lines and these new offerings that really cater to a post-COVID environment?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. When we look at our own capabilities, obviously, the first thing that we said as we scale up across 700 plus stores is obviously we have to be able to deliver that consistent food quality. That's why people come to us to begin with. And that meant more than just production capacity. That also demanded that we knew at any single point in time what sort of inventories that we have, what sort of demand is being experienced within localized areas. So it was more than just the production itself. It was inventory management. It was business analytics. It was responsiveness to be able to keep the supply chain serving our stores every single day as much as they could. So I think that's one of the most important things. A commissary is not just a production line. Commissary, truly, we discovered, is the heart of the business. Yeah. And if you are going to speak about digital transformation, it's not just about the front ends. It's how the commissary links to demand and analytics and the trade area demands.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And just to close it for a while, I think the thing about the smart commissary is such an illustrative lesson for everybody else that this might be the back end, but it can be a smart back end where you can actually use data to really assemble the kind of products that are needed by the market. So there's less wastage, less variability, and SMEs will appreciate that because more variability means more costs, and given your scale, you're showing them the way. Now, Petros, let's go back to you. Peter, sorry, and this is also in credence to a lot of the viewers who are piping in their questions. You're going to get a lot of. I'm going to try to screen some of the customer complaints and go to the constructive questions when I decide. But a lot of this, I think we're going to see a lot of commonality with the questions from consumers of Lazada specifically, which has a lot to do with trust. At the end of the day, this is a virtual platform. The tangibility of goods, services also lends to a leap of faith for the customer, not just user ratings or vendor ratings, but how do you take into account making your vendors more accountable, especially when it comes to counterfeits, refunds, things that the customer only gets at the end of the customer fulfillment journey. How are you managing that now that trust is so important?
Well, now, yeah, we agree that trust is very important, and online, it's really about building that trust for the customers. And for the experience, for example, for our customers, no, we have a lot of channels that are open for the customers. We have our Clio, which is our bot that you're able to answer and chat with you 24/7. We also have customer care that's ready to answer all the concerns. Now, we also have on our side a lot of policies that protect both our customers and our sellers alike. So these policies are in place so that the quality of the experience of the customers is top notch, as well as we are also protecting those sellers who are legitimately doing business and is aiming to serve the customer. And besides that, we also have our teams ready. We have the one of the biggest business risks teams in the Philippines. We also have a platform governance team where all these teams are helping to make examples and sweeping the platform every day, taking a look at the products, the pricing, and trying to see if there's anything we can improve on. Now, if there's anything that customers can also want to, for example, at the end of it, if they're able to, they see that they're not happy, they can always go to the app, and then there are options for them there. So returning is free. We have enabled that option, and right now it's still fully functioning.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. We'll get back to you in a bit also because the questions are piling up for the three of you gentlemen. James, back to you. When you really look at the SME who's trying to be aspirational and get into this environment and have sophisticated tools, how would you build their confidence in terms of getting the first suite of tools on their dashboard, ready to go, so their product goes to market seamlessly? What is a typical conversation, first few hours of conversation like with your clients in terms of how to get them going and not?
What we've found is that, especially now, people are just really, really inquisitive about how things work and how these are going to benefit their business, obviously. But I think, the conversation is always around what are the specifics of the platform, how do they work, how can they be used to, better build relationships and connections with the consumer, with the card holders, because our program, the Cashback World Partner Program, is based on the use of the Cashback World card, which is applicable to any loyalty merchant. So you don't have to fill your wallet up full of loyalty cards, you just have the one card. But for us, I mean, it really, people take to this to the platform very quickly because they understand the importance as well as the power of being able to connect with their, if you like, loyalty network within the shopping ecosystem. So they're very inquisitive, and we find that the initial conversations are quite easy. And again, the adjustment that we've had to make, the big adjustment we've had to make, has been how we get the information to them so that they are, comfortable with that information. And as the title says, Cashback World Partner, as a local office, that's who we are. We're the partner with these MSMEs in market. And if they need anything from us, be it marketing support or technical support or these sorts of things, that's where we step in and play that role to support and assist.
Thanks, James. And one thing, building on that, one thing that cuts across your industries, however different, in which whatever different stages they are in, is the idea of when you look at building in trust mechanisms, right? At the end of the day, it's easier to take care. There's an adage that says it's easier to take care of existing customers because they come back better, and that's really where your marketing focus is, right? On retaining customers rather than trying to gain switching from first-time customers. Talk to us about you talked about loyalty already, James, and how to incentivize them. But Petrus and Mark, let's start with Mark first. Mark, how are you taking care of your suke, so to speak? You've got a lot of diners who've done this first, second, third generation, and a lot of people who you want to keep purchasing and coming to your restaurants, even on a virtual way. What are your programs and current efforts to keep them and grow their loyalty and upsell them even?
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people sort of tend to forget or disrespect as they accelerate into more digital spaces is we tend to throw the relics of the past behind us. No, the analog habits, the analog behaviors, the analog rituals that built our consumer value in the first place tend to get thrown by the wayside. So we said during this time of crisis, when our interactions with our consumers are moving to almost 100% digital, whether through our own platforms or through the aggregators that we partner with, like Grab Food, Food Panda, Lala, and all these other guys. It's more about forward-thinking digital. It's really being able to identify and translate those analog behaviors forward into the digital space. I'll give a couple of examples. No, in the case of we know that demand tends to be very highly centralized in the places where people live, the residential communities, and we said there is no way that we're going to allow a relationship with them to exist just on a virtual shopfront. So two things that we immediately ramped up. First of all, we built an instant team of what we call it a digital concierge. No, in a world where people have gotten used to just interfacing with websites and chatbots, we said the most important currency is the human touch. No, so we were able to use our analytics and our database to identify our most valuable customers, and we built in a pool of talent who would directly replicate the guest experience that they would know from our analog brick and mortar stores. Basic kumustahans, remembering what they like, remember what they ordered last time, and that sort of became the heart and soul of our digital efforts. No? The human aspect, no. And of course, I think we always talk about, people talk about cycling loyalty, recycling value. Again, the data and the analytics led us to that, and it allowed us to be able to speak with people through very personal and direct channels. So I think one of the things that a lot of brands had to acknowledge is in these times, probably the age of national marketing is dead. During tough times, people tend to contract and trust people who are physically close to them. So we said in terms of channel strategies, we're not looking at broad-based blasts on be it social, display, etc. We over-invested on the channels that are most personal and most direct. Might be direct messaging, it might be emailing, all of these different aspects that truly make people feel close to us. Huh? So going back, I think it really starts with an understanding what are the valuable analog practices of the past and how do we translate and bring them forward.
And how to append them with the tools that you have, especially analytics, right? So you've got this nice calibrated attention to the customer using tools, but still an old-fashioned value of taking care of your best customers and treating them the same. Now, Petrus, I mean, obviously you've invested a lot in analytics as well. I guess as a bit of a commercial break, what are you seeing right now in terms of trends? What are people buying more of? I mean, obviously beyond PPEs and COVID-related stuff, what has the market been telling you based on the analytics, and how have you been adjusting?
Well, customers know what are customers doing. So we listen really well to the customers, and some things that they're really trying to do now is that before, from being a transactional nature of our relationship with our customers, now we're seeing them going into lifestyle destinations. So Lazada's an app now is starting to promote this live streaming. For example, we've launched programs like Laz Talent, where we're seeing a lot of buyers before who want to provide their content online, and a lot of sellers also going online, because Lazada's, platforms nowadays, they're looking, and the customers are looking more for platforms that are enabling them not just to do transactions but also to feed their lifestyle. So we're seeing them. We've had a program like a Quaran TV. So some things like that. It's form of entertainment for them. And at the same time, how are they going to react and interact with the buyers and their sellers? So live and very timely interaction is very important. So we're seeing these technologies and these trends transitioning very well. In terms of products, of course, in the very start, we saw a lot of demand, and the focus was really on essential items. So food was very important, and because of that, recently we had to also open up, and listening to the consumers and buyers, we had to open up a food and a delivered by seller option. So now restaurants and also local communities and local small sellers can use the Lazada app and plug into that platform for them to be able to be part of this ecosystem. So these things now, some trends that we're seeing very widespread, actually have been in place before the ECQ, but have been accelerating really fast during quarantine.
Okay. Thanks, Petrus. James, back to you. You know, we're talking about customer service here, but your customer base obviously is on the B2B side, wherein you've got enterprises coming to you to really sharpen their tools and make sure they're ready for the digital space. When you talk about design thinking, and this applies to all of you, right? The first step of design thinking is empathy. And at the end of the day, what it's really interesting that you can want to get them to the space where they can buy all your tools. How do you get them to, right size and calibrate the kind of tools that they need for the stage they're in? Give us an example for that.
I think I think the underlying theme seems to be across analytics too, and how obviously looking at analytics and understanding analytics, how those things make things better. I think when we introduce someone to the program, to the platform, the World platform, when we build out the image, obviously, of the shopping ecosystem and how that you've got that interaction between the cardholders as well as the merchants, and how these things sort of work. From the merchant's perspective, our big, I guess, message that we're giving to them: how do you interact with your loyalty members or your loyalty consumers in a far more efficient and bring them relevant content that they're going to understand, enjoy, if you like, and making their, obviously, at the end of the day, making the consumer's experience with your brand much better. And I think that's where we sort of start, if you like, when we get into the program itself and the different tools that we have. It's how are you going to make the experience of your consumer that is valid or important to your brand or your services? How are we going to bring them to you? How are we going to reduce the noise that's obviously become a big issue? Everybody's online now, so the marketing noise out there is incredible. But how are we going to focus these things, and how are we going to enable you as a merchant to do that for your business and bring people of interest to your brands who will obviously buy your services or take part of your products for that?
Yeah, thanks, James. And just to follow up, it's taking it a notch lower for the first time merchant who wants to get to digital. When you look at the tools that you've invested in, the assurance there is you've invested in these tools and platforms and analytics, and what you're doing is you're sharing with them that investment, right, for the size that they needed, for the markets, for the micro markets that they needed, and all that. So that's the assurance you give already. You've gotten that platform, you've ironed out the kinks, and now you're sharing that Prometheus-wise, for example, with the with first time merchants who want to get into, or established merchants who really want to get more sophisticated in the digital space. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, you're looking at a business that's got 16 years. We're in 49 countries. We've just over the last few weeks, we've just hit 50 million members, consumers across the world. We're at 150,000 merchants. We've taken on about almost 100,000 new merchants within the last couple of months. So we've made some pretty decent headway at a very difficult time. And I think that's just because people are looking at where their businesses are right now and looking for change.
Yeah, so proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? So if you got your subscription base and your tools have actually been sharpened with that. Now, speaking of proof of the pudding is in the eating, Mark, going back to you. I mean, there's certainly nothing like the in-house dining experience and the ambience you've created through your different restaurants. These restaurants obviously have had some capex investments and all that. So, and this is really what's unique, even more unique to a lot of our SMEs, because a lot of them start out in pop-up stores, bazaars. They've some of them have gotten spaces in key malls already. How have you been able to manage overheads? Because that's a critical piece of advice that a lot of entrepreneurs right now who are, even if they're digital, they still have their brick and mortar aspect. What advice would you kind of give them?
Yeah. Well, I've had several talks with people in the industry as well, specific to that point. Obviously, the one of the biggest cost components that goes into running the restaurant is literally the overhead, the physical space that houses us. And there are a lot of brands whose model is built on sheer volume, sheer turnover. And in that case, I would call out perhaps the fast foods, no? Where they demand maybe 500, 600, 700 people per day just to be able to survive. No? So they need the numbers. But when you look at the casual dining space where the Maxis Group brands tend to exist, no? um, a lot of people might have thought that space might be baggage, no? But we see it differently. In a world where people, we don't think that this whole physical distancing thing is something that's just going to vanish immediately once the quarantine gets called off. No, people will continue to be mindful about keeping distance, staying safe, and in these cases, it just needs a little bit of creative thinking. How do you turn excess space from being baggage to being an asset? And I think, just as a very casual example, when you own a store and then you're no longer able to accommodate more than 50% of your capacity, that space becomes a valuable currency because now all of a sudden you are more enabled to promise to your customers that here in your particular space, we guarantee 2 meters distance, 3 meters distance. No, so it's a lot of creative thinking, and then I suspect it goes back to the values of empathy and imagination that James was talking about earlier. No, there are still very real problems to be solved, and I suspect that with a little bit of juice and a little bit of brain power, we're able to transform all of the baggage, the overheads, into more efficient use for us.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And just as a follow-up to that, I mean, you look at the Maxis Group of the future, and which is already coming on to us right now. You're pivoting this as this is a more intimate and I suppose more secure environment because you've taken the steps to make them safe, but at the same time, with the social distancing in place as the new normal, you're also creating that kind of environment where they can actually dine in peace, actually hear each other without talking over each other's heads, right? And at the end of the day, that is a good selling point. The question is for a lot of entrepreneurs is how do you do that? Because obviously volume is good for a business, especially a brick and mortar business. How do you do that and keep prices just just as reasonable and still sustainable? And how does the digital space offset that loss? I mean, that's the number one question for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Yeah, it's great that we're going to have these physical spaces utilized, albeit at a smaller, less dense capacity. We've got to get that revenue somewhere. How have you worked out that calculus with the Maxis Group?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head when you said calculus, no? Because this is not just basic addition and subtraction. One of the things, obviously, when we look at productivity of space, people will have different models. They say, I want to be generating this much of pesos for every square meter, so on and so forth. There are so many allied potential partner categories that we can invite into our own spaces. Because we know fundamentally when people go out to dine, it's not just food that they are purchasing. No? They say, I'm buying the ambiance, I'm buying the experience. So logically, because a lot of these entrepreneurs, they already have the physical space, they have some sort of distribution mechanism set up. Now, I've seen a lot of wonderful examples where they actually turn themselves into a community hub where services that are naturally attached to their products, they start to bundle and build into their service offering. I saw this very imaginative steak and wine place. No, obviously alcohol was off the table. No, but they said, you know what? We're going to partner with a local flower vendor. So now you can order a romantic dinner complete with flowers, and maybe there's a gift card for entertainment, be it Spotify, Netflix, whatever. Again, it's a lot more imaginative thinking, no? If you need to be able to break out of your predefined product category, so be it. Because there's so much that goes around food, no? And if you know who your allies are, it might be experience, it might be props, it might be decor, entertainment. These are things that you can naturally bundle in just to be able to build your average check a little bit. And oh, by the way, that's going to pad your margins a little bit more, a little bit
Well,
more.
yeah, well, thanks, Mark. And just as an addendum to that, it seems to be that while the rest of the less intrepid who wants to go into a restaurant actually is taken care of by your digital service and your e-commerce service, it looks like there's enough wiggle room to get those kind of diners in there because it's self-selected. They'll come in because they will have the ambience, and you now have the literal and physical space, and virtual space to give them that experience. So I think that's something for other restaurateurs and people who are holding on to physical space to see the upside in. So yeah, thanks, Mark. Now, James and Petrus, I mean, we're at this point in time now. We've got around 10 minutes left before I get back to Jenny. When we talk about the vendors, this is important because I'd say like 60% at least of our audience and the folks who are listening in have their own businesses, want to get into the vendor space digitally. They recognize your platforms as being best in breed. So take us to the operationalization of that. First time vendor comes in, picks up the phone, or sends you a WhatsApp message. How do you get them comfortable to get into your platform? What kind of tools are you giving them on day one? How do you hold their hand so they stay in the system, they grow with you, and you can upsell? Now let's start with James here.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, from the merchant's perspective, it's quite an easy onboarding process. Most of the heavy lifting is obviously done behind the scenes, but really, once they're on board, it is again, as I said, I mean, we have knowledge base is virtual, so everything's online for them. But they are, they have that resource available from the office and from our business in country to support them through the I guess the learning curve period, if you like. And then, I think, to be honest with you, the conditions of where we are right now in the market, because of this move into the virtual world, the owners are, in essence, looking at these products and services or looking at these platforms and the tools that we have. We've got analytics, we've got a communication tool. You can build out an email marketing strategy. You can do all these things. And so previous to this, maybe things weren't such a, they weren't such a priority. Because if you're in your brick and mortar store and you're trying to run this operation, there's a lot of time and effort and energy put into these things. Now, however, you've changed the entire paradigm about how we transact. And now the MSME space owners are realizing I've got to commit to these sorts of things. I've got to use these tools to ensure that I see success in my business. Because really, the tools that we have in the back office are tools that empower merchants not just to have a fantastic relationship with their loyalty merchants or loyalty members, but also with other merchants. Because the B2B from a loyalty merchant's perspective in our shopping ecosystem is also extremely important. So I think where we are right now, placed in this situation, sort of continuing on COVID-19, hopefully soon to be COVID-19, this is the time when people are realizing the power of these tools and the value of what we're doing. So really getting them to use it is become quite easy.
Okay, thanks, James. And then, like I said, I mean, we're trying to take away the intimidation factor for non-digital natives who own businesses. And at the end of the day, the assurance I understand you're giving, as you mentioned to me the other day, is the suite of tools that you have are customized to where they are at the moment and where they want to be, right? And eventually you can curate and calibrate that and not break the bank in the process, grow with them, so to speak, right?
Right, no, definitely. And we've got some really fantastic things planned. So, as they join us now, the coming months, they're going to see some really great upgrades to our platform. And this is going to be really exciting for you as a loyalty merchant.
Well, nothing like necessity being the mother of invention, right? So Petrus, finally to you. I mean, look, I mean, you've got this wide ecosystem, wide marketplace, expanding product portfolio with obviously a good bias for the locals because it helps with logistics. Tell us about the first time vendor. I mean, a lot of people are already going through yours and others networks, but what is your, I guess, unique selling proposition to vendors who want to go to Lazada beyond the fact that you claim to be the largest market space in the Philippines? Tell us about the advantages in terms of getting on board with the Lazada platform. And
Well,
how
for
the
Lazada, sorry. Yeah,
yeah, and how
for
they're able to
Lazada,
yeah.
okay. For Lazada, no, it's super easy to go online. We've made it so easy that within 5 minutes you have your own account. No, it's fast, it's easy, it's free. So if you go to Google, for example, you just Google how to sell on Lazada. You will in 5 minutes you can make your account and go there. So all you need is a government ID, or if you're a business, you have requirements, and then submit it online, and then you're good to go. Now on Lazada, the beautiful thing is you have a lot of options. So you have a lot of options, not just on Lazada, but on other platforms as well. So options like, what do I want to do? Everything's available for all the buyers out there. And if you go online, what we've done now is for the first 90 days, if you're a new seller, we have a program called incubation that if you upload your first product, we have somebody who will call you. And then there are automated emails and automated tutorials. And then we also have this thing called Lazada University. Lazada University covers a wide range of learning videos. For example, from getting started, how do you fulfill, how to take a picture, for example, or if you don't have a studio at home, what is the basic things you need to take a look at, for example, white background. And then there are tools that will help you go online. So all you need is to know how to use the computer, and then start now. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is always that treat this like opening a new sales channel. So opening a new sales channel always has its investments, and most of the investments here will not be monetary, but mostly learning and skills upgrades. And a lot of these are free right now.
Okay, thanks, Petrus. Now, finally, I mean, we've got 3 minutes left. Just a quick thing on payment, because I'd be remiss if I didn't take into account a number of the questions that were there. I mean, obviously, you have different business models, but how has your payment platforms evolved to make them not only secure, because there's a KYC aspect, although your customer aspect there's a security aspect, but also in terms of convenience, anything from the good old COD down to the different payment platforms that are out there on their mobile phones. Tell us about how you've adapted and how you've been able to engage, especially the most sophisticated, most demanding of customers. Let's start with Mark, and then let's go back to James, and then Petrus, and then close it.
Yeah, it's really funny because I think when you look at Southeast Asia, a lot of the experts would say that Philippines is probably the least mature when it comes to e-payments and online wallets. And despite all of the marketing geniuses behind all of the different the companies here in the Philippines today, I think all it took to get people to migrate towards contactless was just this fear of death, this brand new priority for hygiene. No? So truly, what we've been seeing exponentially grow over the last couple of weeks has truly been on uh, the rise of contactless, no? And then that talks about many different platforms. Might be credit cards, it might be the online payment portal, so on and so forth. But we were very fortunate to have this fully integrated into our systems, no? Integrated with payment portals and payment providers. And it's also a lot more efficient and safer for us in terms of cash handling and operations and all that different stuff. So we don't mind this migration. No, a lot of the entrepreneurs out there will say that they don't like the fees that are being taken by these portals. I think I would personally say, the security, the convenience, and the streamlining of the transaction is well worth it, especially in a world where people. Yeah.
Yeah, can't put too much of a price tag on peace of mind, right? So, okay, so being of peace of mind, Petrus, let's go back to you in terms of your payment platforms. How evolved are they now, especially with the Alibaba investment? Petrus, your line's not good. Go ahead.
Hello, now, okay.
Better. Go ahead, please.
So now, actually, the theme for us is actually offering more options for our consumers and buyers and sellers like to be able to transact on the platform. So on the Lazada wallet alone, we are constantly trying to get more and more partners so that they'll be able to plug into the wallet and give options to the consumers. So of course, COD will still be, and I think it's still and still will be the biggest form of payment right now. But eventually, we will see a lot of people trying to option out of that with the demand for physical distancing, ease of transactions. It's easier also to get your refund in terms of if you're able to do transactions online. So the convenience eventually will help consumers transition into going into these cashless options. So now with the technology that's available with us, especially with as you mentioned a while ago, the investments that were given to us, we're able to give more and more options to our consumers, and are we able to refine our systems so that it will be a lot safer and a lot more convenient for everybody out there.
Yeah, thanks. And finally, James, when you talk about offering payment platforms for your clients in terms of what they can offer in turn to theirs, I mean, how evolved are you in terms of giving them the suite that they need?
To be honest with the payment platform, I mean, it's primarily on a merchant by merchant basis. So obviously they make the decision what's best for their business. However, I think from a holistic view, we are very much we're in a fantastic space in Southeast Asia, especially in the Philippines, because I think e-cash, e-wallets, and these sorts of things are really going to step up and be an integral part of our market moving forward, and I'm really excited about that. So again, I mean, as we develop our platform with these new conditions that we're experiencing in market, I think the e-cash, the e-wallet situation will also improve, and we will be looking at ways of onboarding our own gateways and these sorts of things.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. What's interesting about this environment is you've got a ready market that not only has to, but really has wanted to do it. There's nothing like hastening digitization for good, especially when it comes to an economy that is tipped to be among the top 5 in the next 20, 30 years. So in the region. So thank you very much, gentlemen. And I turn it back now to Jenny Ligones. Thanks again to our audience for your individual questions. And I'm sure our guests will be taking them offline as well beyond this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Quintin, for moderating and making our sessions lively. I like the fact that there was a mention on payment platform. So if some of you watch our online forum last week, it was about fintech. It was our fintech edition, and we had GCash, PayMaya, the Union Bank, and RCBC. That was really paving the way for companies like you guys. So that was actually a very interesting session as well. So Quintin, I was wondering if you have e-commerce business, because the questions were very lively and interesting. You really know the topic so well.
Thanks. I'm very discriminating customer, so they've answered all my questions from a customer point of view, at least.
Okay, all right, James, Mark, and Petrus, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. We enjoyed listening to how you've transformed your businesses using innovative ways to enhance customer experience and, in return, sustainability of your operations. So thanks again, guys, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. To the companies out there that are interested in taking their business on e-commerce platform, but may not have the idea on how to go about this, please do not hesitate to call us. We'd be happy to sit down with you and craft a plan for your digital customer experience transformation. This concludes our online forum. You may view this again on our website and social media pages. On behalf of Third Pillar, thank you once again to our online viewers for joining us. Until our next online forum.